We have Saturday, March the 15th, and this is not to tell things, it is rather to explain why, in my opinion, it is quality not to know. No, it is quality to accept I don't. This is important. It is possible to win even you lose. This is from a real movie, As Far as the Feet Will Carry. And for that you need more than age. You need quite that, you understand. It is not for me to explain child raising or to explain networking, but it is not every day, sometimes in another mode, like in social events or at the theater. This had been something I perceived as a program to show the different peoples in the it is in the East. Not the United States of Russia, but you might call it that way. But this is my own expression right now. It is not on official occasions, but this is a little bit more gone out of the party basement. This is because I understand there had been working for the understanding of culture, and this had been done privately. This is lying there, a little bit by accident, but not totally. You understand, it is a strange situation, having international relationship privately to both sides. And this is not prepared. I wanted to explain it in German, now I switched to English. I did not manage to study more than that, to make myself understood a little bit of this and that, but that is not for communication. I had been invited to both sides privately, and that had been like from of old, to have respect. I was the recipient. I had been the recipient, and I'm understanding a little bit, very little, when being in my virtual understanding, in a responsible, not official, but privately in a responsible situation. This is understood as being the achievement of someone from the West. But without arguing about it, it had been someone being trained on both sides, being a networker. There had been a good relationship being developed, but then destroyed. Then me understanding a little bit about the Eastern in the kingdom. No, it is not a kingdom. It had been the Soviet-Union. And I'm not joking that I understood those people I can't understand beforehand, being there. As a child, I looked for someone with my instinct, having understanding. It is by instinct. Now me saying that there is a soul, that is now, if the papers give the right information, at a state I don't like, hurt. It had been that there had been a war, but those, as a child, I found, as a child, had not blamed it on me. I don't know what was with the others. If you are there, you are looking, or you are given, there's someone like a holiday mother or holiday papa, but it is something you won't understand. I'm not trying to do that. I myself am not too fast, fully persuaded. You can't explain it. People then will think too much. You can't explain it too much. Will think you are not sure. Why not? Others have better eyesight than you. No, I don't think so. It is the quality demand that had been demanded in me. I came back and I gave my report. For example, I can't say about the others, but I found people who want to have a future. Not as the stereotype goes. This is a movie. And it had been possible if someone had been trained to survive on himself. English is not my language, I already said so. I was maybe raised for some months, I've totally forgot. Then a little bit, some words of Russian, not too much, but being from the West, not from the eastern parts of Germany, from Western Germany. And that is privately. But the knowledge is first try to learn the soul, but not as a spy. I had been maybe 10 years old, and this was based on the old. And then the open argument you wouldn't survive. The conflict, the political conflict, was totally left out. And it had to be, if you want to understand something about the people in the ice, in the icy regions, and there it is cold in the winter and harsh conditions. And then someone, maybe it was fictional, I hope, I don't know exactly, maybe he did escape. Then he had to work his way through, knowing everything, like surviving with the temperature, surviving with water and food, to disguise, to understand people, to merge. But this had not been, of course I thought first, but then understanding, I thought at first it could be give honor to the brave German soldier, but afterward understood it had been because not everyone had been enemy in the country. If the man escaped from Siberia, he had of course to break some of the laws. Then he was out of the camp. Then of course throw away not everything but nearly everything and keep what he needed, maybe a knife. Then of course something to cover, or to build something in the ice like the Eskimos do, to have snow as an isolation, and understood it is possible but nearly not desirable. But understanding the different cultures, I had been there, of course, in my thought life, and you understand later, built in, what I had been a visitor on occasions. And this movie is known to me, therefore I take this. And if you look at the, I don't know, the 70th edition, it is not very much about or everything in between, but explaining there is not one soul for the whole country, for the united people under one political roof. It is to understand. And then to understand, people want to survive. There is not the wishful thinking to have a war. Some had enough to survive a day, and then suspicion with the gold diggers. A gold digger is being guarded by himself, and you see the roads differently. For me it had been important for my building, now being built in the character, but it does not give me the right to think the people are no intelligent people, as the Western propaganda explained. But on the other hand, going to the cities, you see the rich. I didn't see it that much, but today I think you see the rich not caring for the, or do they? This is differently. I had my lesson. He is, I do not understand Russian, but you scan it and you have character recognition, and then you understand it says he's cutting. I don't know if it is in a quiet place, and then his tears. But why? Maybe no one is buying it? Who is caring that he has enough income, for example? This is from VK. It is not the same as YouTube, but with me it is individuals who understand. It is from the starting page, from the start page. Then is, of course, now the conflict. What is with the Ukraine? If you go there, you have one people after the other. One people after the other. Everyone individually, and then you have democratic or something like it, giving you leaders. And please understand, if you are interested in the real world, that then there are contracted laws. The peoples, hopefully, have a solid foundation with the United Nations, but it is something very much different from what you see if you go there, and even if you do it virtually. Visit a country by looking at a movie. You understand politics cannot be done by looking. This is privately for you to understand, but the politicians once had a childhood, and there is a little bit different thinking. If you are on the contract or on the international contract basis, like the United Nations should give you, you have then to understand the, for example, European side, the Chinese, South American, North American, British, and else. What else? Belarus? Yeah, of course, everyone who could be involved. Or is it the Korean side? This is important to understand. The Ukraine once had been part of the United People, this is not a good translation, the Soviet Union. There had been for a long time conflict with the center of the Soviet. This is legally to be understood, but read a contract and you have immediately a filtering. And this is considered. I hope the international workforce of diplomats, and it is of course known, what you read in the papers is published. There had been a publication about Spitsbergen. There had been a mining business. Back then there had been privately very much effort to give a little bit, to have in exchange better conditions, or to take something. But the honest people, if those are contracted, this is a man who was caught, I think, and he still had some sort of victory, because not that he would put it on a scale, I hope not, because he had been caught. And then he had his character still somehow intact. But for me it is important. There had been that much damage. This is a sample, 70s. From the East, it was possible, and this had not been necessary, it was voluntarily, to give insight. 70s. And that had been from 1945, with the people still living, having had that many casualties. But understanding the danger is both sides could take advantage of the wishful thinking and then playing like a chess player. No, you can't do that with too many tricks, but like putting in economics a new product on the market. This, of course, is legal. If you do it right, you can do it. You have, for example, a new thing like gaming had been with the computers. Then a whole business is moved, and there had been a border that the West had developed differently than the East, and the motive behind all this is to give you a belief that I did not forget, but I'm bound with that what is around me, and I fear there was some kind of, and it is true, there had been a condition that nowadays it is more business with one S or two, business with one, with dollar, euro, and others. And I did not see too many sensible, not too many, but you might regard it sensible that even the strong men are thinking about home. And I was curious and I understood everyone once had a mother, but then I understood even that had been destroyed. In the West, I saw it on the streets, but I did not want to see it. I was empathetic and curious as a boy in America. There it had been a problem that the men had to pay for their never-seen children. You understand? I saw both sides, and it is differently. In Europe, officially there is state insurance. There had been not something I saw. And the people I saw had been sometimes in the cities, and there something like in the US or like Europe. And then I learned I know a little only, a little bit. But I'm not satisfied what I see, that this is only a sample to explain. I'm not pleased, but I can't say if I see it right, because the papers have changed. This is business. It had been, but then people wanting to do something privately, and then understanding there had been valid tears, right tears, but some tears are theater tears. Tears? You can't say. Right one? And I'm not claiming I can. I say that this movie was not, in my opinion, first I thought so. This is not to give the man who did escape, yes, he had been brave and that on, but it had been, or it was intended, I don't know how it did work out, it was too short, that the peoples had been, like you might expect, family and tribes based. And the man could survive because he did merge in. He had to understand how the families did work, or the tribe system, or the business system. And then discussing it afterward, I understood that had been the ethnological businessman. And then tears and accusing each other. And I had been raised after World War II, from the 1970s on, of course a little bit before being born, but I remember accusation had been there, but it was shunned. It was the trying inside of my family not to have it. That does not mean that I did not think about it. Who is to blame? The explanation had been there had been an evil spirit in World War II, in the Third Reich. And I did not say too much to the thinking that we would spend it like giving to the church. It is rather, I thought, people who want to build a better culture, relationship. I learned it is a little bit colder and the climate is more straining in the east, but I saw difficulties in America. As well, and I knew there is something like a guilt not spoken of, because of the paperwork much paperwork about the Third Reich. And then behind the scenes, I don't know too much. I was totally left out of military thinking. I later understood there had been a military family. Luckily retired before, and being against, because seeing by calculation the damage, but I can't do what people want me to do. I cannot be on one side. There had been an inner Soviet conflict before, but you can't judge. I do not want that. Not everything in a box, not everything in one pot. This is only a sample you could come through. The people have little bit different systems, but being friendly enough that if you behave peacefully, you could go from Siberia to Turkey, or had it been Afghanistan. I think the route of the escape man who escaped illegally from the prison camp, internment camp, this had been breaking of the law. As a boy I thought, would I have done it? After some years he would have been sent home. He broke free in this story, and then escaped and had all that trouble and had with cunning go through. And this is not for me to answer. But the message with this movie had been, there are people who have a character. And it had been a little bit different. I understood without having had visitors protection. It would have been survival of the fittest. There it had been in America. More the compassion being built, but not everywhere. But please understand, this is for me advertisement to believe me that this is a world with contradictions. For me it is good to understand what I don't know, and there is quite a lot. But that is quality, I think, to understand there is a real being tricked calculation from the perspective with the the legal interpretation thinking, the cultural legal interpretation, or the interpretation of that what is in contracts. And then afterwards, this is the 70th, I hope they had been working on it to make it understandable and to find people who are willing to go into the effort. What is with Ukraine? I did not understand, even by asking, what the tribal system had been exactly, not by guessing, because that is the ground for the legal interpretation. Now this is of course to think about it, how to put it into words. This is philosophical, not my idea to do it, because I like to think about it is important. There had been a lookout for people, not only with Russia, or the peoples of Russia, or of the Soviet Union, rather, but both is true, but with other areas of the world as well, who could understand the ethical thinking. And it is differently in all the world, and I had been interested because my mother said, her picture you might see in other of those reflection videos, if you like, if you have the time to understand. I think peace is based on the understanding, but then it is of course with business as well. And from this perspective, this is the Federal Republic, often called Germany, and it is that what is left. There had been a channel built somewhere to the Ukraine, and it had been financed in part privately, but then other business ideas come across. What is with the pipelines? And this is then of course politically, but thinking privately, everyone wants to have food on the table. This is a movie, and it reflects a little bit, and everyone has his own ideas because it is not explaining too much. It is a fictional adventure. It is an adventure. And I now understand, being nearly 50 years older, that it had been possible because there had been training with the Russian forces in police work, but as well in private security work. If you went to countries, you had to ride on a horse. There had been robberies on the streets, and this had been some years ago. Then the airplanes made it much more comfortable, but still it is, in some parts, a matter of security. And then people explain it is secure in the Federal Republic, and this is in comparison. In comparison it is, but now understanding there is security needed to put this this idea of schizophrenic far away, but not too far. If you are, for example, nearly starving to death, I'm not starving to death, please understand. I'm quite secure in comparison, but the expectations in me are higher than the expectations into someone being in a country. Russia is not poor. The western part is quite, according to what I know, quite in the style of a so-called developed country. So-called, it is difficult. I can't say it in words. I'm trying to do it not in the party basement. 33 minutes, it is much too long. This is a plaidoyer to maybe, if you have time, to read a book about Russia and then to understand. This oral contract is important. This is a political business to build up the rules for the traffic of business and finances. And I can't say too much about it because I do not rely. Yes, I'm forced to rely on papers, but I do not think it is a good thing. Hopefully there is in the background a looking into it, a good, sober looking into it, and then understanding, for example, the Ukraine, who is responsible. There is a part with people having a closer bond to the Russians, and others a closer bond to what is that in part? Ask them, but not not possible if you understand that there had been quite a thing going on for years before this military conflict began, there had been conflicts before, and before, therefore it is first of all important to have a basis that, for example, the Red Cross could go in and look what's really going on. I heard of a man who had been in the Federal Republic. He went back and he tried. And it is possible, but not that easy. And then going to the table with those facts who are not, then it is, first of all, to have it that way that it can be assessed and people are not wanting to wait, I understand. But what's really going on? Being more and more with responsibility in my feeling. But then I will go back to have the fairy tale thing to interpret, yes. Because I found things, but this is not, this is a fairy tale, of course, too. This is not something to take lightly. But what's going on? If you like, please consider to support me, and this is, for me, I think I had to move out of the whole thing, because now stood the private missionaries in business, finances, and so on, not in church matters. Those did, as I understood, out of it, I don't know if all of them, and I never went into the footprints, a very, very little bit only, but it had been because people did the work and I was going alongside a little bit doing things, and then understanding time had changed, but how much? This is a matter of information. And people do not like to wait till information is there, but it is important. And the thing with the United Nations is that it had been difficult. I only heard one voice or two, or maybe three, from those working there. Yes, maybe some more, but you understand, not that I can give you a valid report. It is about feelings. That it is difficult because of the new technologies who are not fully understood. This is Gerüchte, that is rumors. And it is somehow possible to have an Apple phone to give you, without contact, some information. Thinking about it does give you a knowledge that it is without contact. Like an antenna, something must go there. People work on the possibility that you can steer some machinery with thinking right and thinking left. And this is the business of science. Science people, neurological, I don't know what. And this is no theory, it's going on. These are my childhood, it is German, childhood memories of the 80s. And those had been from very, I was a child, from very of old. very much what are 50 years if you are 5 years old. Not only old-timers, but did they have electricity? This is no good English, but I heard people communicating and I couldn't speak the other language, and it had not been with artificial translation. Therefore, I dare to give you something. There is neurological understanding. This is a head. No good drawing. Nose. And those people, those doctors, if those are doctors, but others could do it as well, maybe therapist, something on the head to look if the brain is on some, I don't know what. Doctors do not explain it scientifically. Therefore, it is possible to look with digital sensors, with digital sensors in the head. Maybe it is now possible to do it even from a distance, or with a method to give the impulse magnifying effect. The old people from propaganda, no, not from the propaganda of novels about the future. Some think those are advertising something they want to have, like self-driving cars and hopefully not self-flying planes. The 16th century had not only windmills but watermills, and there had been, because of the moving of the wheel, some electronic thing going on, and then it is said the first electronic effects had been involuntarily there. And it's possible from the 16th century till now there had been something, and then being forgotten. Therefore, what I give you is a thing. I'm quite in a strange and desperate, but not for you. Not for you that if you are in an ice-cold country, it is not desperate for you. You could maybe with a knife go out, or maybe not to to look for something to eat. You need a knife to dig for roots, to catch an animal. This is not something people in the Western would like to hear. It is allowed to have a knife with 7 centimeters. If it is longer, it is a weapon. Therefore, please understand, I'm not giving you some ideas. This is not desperation on that level, but it is ideas that are misunderstandings somehow of doctors. I'm not saying those do it voluntarily or not voluntarily. What I do say, those must be misunderstandings, otherwise I won't be what I am. Please, if you have some idea of German, or someone who understands German, it's important to look what I say between the lines. I cannot give you information not known. I more and more understand what I do not know. This is the thing I'm looking into. It is like a puzzle, no understanding, not possible before. There had been something, and it is showing to the direction that people with another thinking of interpretation of law interpretation, different problem. And this goes not to the east. No. I had been there, but it could go there also. I had been there, and it was not explained. If I was regarded as a boy, I can't make contracts in that age or on that age. Or if there are even not the protection laws that you are protected as a child. In this part it is with 14 years protection, then with 18 or 21 years. And then it is a different kind to marry, a different kind and to be engaged. And I now see some problems, different interpretations. That does not mean that I say that the Western is, I think the Western is applying, the Western style. And this is, in my opinion, one of the problems of the misunderstandings between the Eastern and the Western thinking. Thank you very much. Hopefully I will not forget to put that as a headline, that the problem, I think, not in all the fields, but in some of them, that there is misunderstanding between the Eastern and the Western. This is now in a German Google News for today. Sometimes I think, what's going on? Is that really all what is put into the open, or could it be with faults and not allowed filtering? That does not make me that important. It could be something going on for the whole city. Once I heard many people moved here from the former Eastern German part. Now it is part of the Federal Republic. I do not blame them, but maybe there is a filtering in the internet. If not, okay, but maybe you have something like a filtering. And I do not blame anyone. It is known that China had explained it is necessary, I heard from the papers and on the private tables, privately, that it is necessary to leave something out. But then there is the saying, it is not filtered internet, unfiltered, not filtered internet. If it is not that way, I'm asking openly if it can be explained. Is that with everyone that the papers are, or I hope it is possible to explain it. Otherwise I'm standing there and accepting it. It is the news of today, not very much. And how can I build my opinion about the Ukraine? It was privately that I already said, if possible, I would give input. Yes, if possible. And I'm not in favor of any system. I'm rather in the Western style. And this is very much 90% or more. The Eastern style is officially the same. But then please understand the tribal idea I have not. In the tribal system there is, hopefully I understood it right, this is a tribe with many families. And then there's a tribe chief. The chief, and these are families, and with me it is not even in families other can decide. You understand? This is hopefully not in Russia, only in some regions there, not in Russia the whole, or the Soviet Union the whole. And this I understand. I stumbled across things. I'm not pleased that the whole thing is from 92, or has it been 94, that there is a lost communication. Some think put it to quietness, not to sleep, but it had been quiet. Maybe it is okay, but please understand, the digital communication is not looking reliable anymore, and it had been that before. In that movie it is analog. The digital, that is that the language and the words, the audio, I mean, and the video is put into bits and bytes, that is into zeros and ones. There is currency, there is no currency, and then put into little packets and sent packet-based across the internet. I mean, that is digital. This is my explanation. And there in between it could be changed, like with the filtering, you see. This is gray and this is in color. There are other possibilities, not that good. And this really is my face, but it is from one side only. From the other side it is looking differently. And why I'm doing that? Because not knowing that it could be of interest with me, I regarded myself only as a little helper, and maybe I was. I'm interested to understand if you could follow my idea that there should be more thinking security, to think and to put it into a back filtering. Could it be that someone, could be the case that someone is interested to put me out of the play? There is information needed. This had been privately, and I was very pleased to learn about the cultures, the different cultures in the Soviet Union. Today we have the 25th, and it is March. And we have today the 15th. And please do not blame it on others. This is, if there is a filtering, this is then done that professional. I myself never thought it could be possible that I had been of enough interest to give it that effort. that energy. And this really is true, and hopefully 55 minutes, 4 seconds, 6 seconds, and it started. With that, this is a rose out of wood, and then I once had a carpenter who is really, or had been someone of talent, and hopefully still is, and it's important to understand that I don't think it is a good thing to come to the idea not to follow the 100% based on lawfulness, righteous thinking, and the contract reliability. There had been, at that age, I had been, of course, 15 years, 16 years, 20 years. There's a thinking you could become rich by having the better business idea rather than to have the better product. And with me, that never had been accepted with my parents, and with me not. It had been something like in the fairy tales. Like Bud Spencer, he was using his fists, and I understood, even in Russia, people work hard for an income, and please do never come to the conclusion that the fast result to have a better, you understand, a snowball system or something like selling it to someone who is willing to pay very much, and having bought it for $1, the other paying 500. This could be valid, but in some regard it is honor cutting, and I follow the idea: do to others as you would have them do to you. Even having heard from people coming out of Russia, not having met there, but coming out of Russia, who say, you ought to be a bear or a wolf, otherwise you are the sheep. I'd rather say it is protection of United Nations that the contract business is valid very much. And for example, problems of Ukraine or other parts can only be solved with contract business, and the forces ought to be there to defend. And I never liked the idea that there are weapons being given to the Ukraine that could be used somehow to attack. And this should be enough to understand that this Tor weapon was never allowed to go there, not those little ones being in the papers it was, as because those could be attack weapons to attack leading centers. But not everything is truthfully following contracts. Therefore, all peoples of the world should work together to have a better defense of real contract believing people. I hope my English is good enough, you understand. In doubt, please ask me in German. Thank you very much. This is Friedrich. This is a name, a Christian name, and my forefathers had been really on sailing ships. Forefathers coming from the regions of the East and of the West. And I never had any problems with it because it was not explained too much. I learned because people asked. And I could give it to others, but who wants to live from pedagogic, from the ideas of child raising? No one can live off that, but there should be a little bit support, hopefully for me to look into it. And please do not think I want to adore every leader from of old, but everyone is deserving respect, first of all, because, and I had been sober before, but not understanding it could be that important. This is the difference. 1 hour, the difference from yesterday to today, or from 2021, and it could go back to 1900 or before. This goes to all the people all over the world, and I found more in the United States. Why? Because I had been there maybe 90-95%. I hadn't been very often to, not in my thought life, and not real, and I have no idea to discuss it, to have a discussion, or to argue about it. You understand? To argue about what I experience or what not. This could lead to the wrong conclusion. Then doctors say, the whole thing is schizophrenic, and I say, of course, the whole world is going that way. It is not my decision. The whole world is schizophrenic. But please, could we try to have better grounds? Thank you very much, and greetings again from Friedrich. And if it is Friedrich IV or not, the world is not needing that on the table, but it could help a little bit to find out. Thank you.